Hello and welcome to the Music Production Podcast. This is Brian Funk. I'm also known as AfroDJMac, and I have a very special guest today to have a little conversation with. This is Nachmias from Sonic Logic. Hello, Uri. How you
Hi,
doing?
hi, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for having me here. I've been listening to your podcasts and blown away, honestly.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Cool.
This is the funny, weird part of the podcast I'm noticing where we do like our fake second hello.
Yeah, yeah.
We've already like spoken for a minute or two just to get acquainted, and now we're like pretending like we're meeting again for the first time.
I hope we didn't say the really good stuff before we're starting to record.
Right, right.
And we're left with the leftovers for the show.
Yeah. Well, we can like pretend we're talking about some things for the first time
Yeah,
again.
yeah. Awesome,
So how
cool.
you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Actually, I had a new baby girl born 8 days ago.
On the way.
Yeah.
Oh wow, congratulations.
Thanks, and I'm totally sleep deprived. So
Oh my God, I
th-
bet.
that's bound to make this talk a lot more interesting.
Right, maybe the filter will be a little open and not working properly.
Yeah, totally. So if I say
Oh, no kid.
anything stupid, there's a good reason for that.
Right. Oh, I bet a lot of people can relate to that.
Totally.
I can my dogs are a handful, so I can only imagine what having a newborn in the house would be like. Is this I think you mentioned before you had another daughter too.
Yeah, I have two girls right now. Yeah,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a
Yeah, that's awesome.
great joy.
I have two girls too, but they're Shetland sheepdogs. But actually, they got into a a little bit of mischief today. My wife had some brownies on the counter, and chocolate's not good for dogs. And the cat
Wow.
is his name's Theo, and he's agile. And he climbs up on the counter and he'll like knock things over. And they're I guess working in cahoots to do that. And they got into these chocolate brownies. So
Oh, so are they okay?
yeah, they should be fine.
Yeah.
They are like totally fine. I coming and see them today when I get home. Um, so
So
maybe
ba-
they're just a little hyper.
so basically, you have more pets than people living in the house. So you're outnumbered.
That's true. I didn't think about that yet.
Yeah, they can basically control you.
Yeah, there's like one human, and I would consider myself an animal. So my wife is outnumbered.
Nice.
Yeah. So I do appreciate you coming to talk. I know it's nighttime for you. You're in Israel,
Yeah,
and I'm in New York. So we're at slightly different times of day here. So thank you.
sure,
I'm
sure.
guessing that
My pleasure.
this might be your precious sleep time. So I apologize for that.
For
Or maybe I'm getting you off the hook for
for
crying
changing
baby
diapers, yeah.
duty.
So,
Yeah.
no, if there'll be a crying baby, you'll hear it. But when you sleep so little, it really doesn't matter. Sleep or more or less, doesn't matter.
Right.
There's
I
a
hear
funny
you.
story to it. I found myself yesterday in the supermarket. And did you ever see the movie Memento?
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Okay,
Great
so I
movie.
felt like totally in that movie. Where am I? What am I doing here? How did I get here? What am I looking for?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh,
it's
that's a
kind of
funny
like that.
feeling. Huh? Who am I? Where am I? Well, if you start like writing things on your body to remember.
Wow, that might happen.
Right. Okay, cool. That movie and if I guess if there's anyone listening that doesn't know about it, it's really filmed in such an interesting way where the main character has no short-term memory. He can't make new memories. So every couple minutes, he's kind of just like, you know, doesn't know what's been going on for the last few minutes. So the way they film the movie is where they start with the last scene of the movie, and then each scene goes back in the past a little bit. And they don't tell you this, so you kind of have to figure it out as you go
Hmm.
along. But it puts the audience in a very similar position as the main character,
Yeah.
in that you don't know what just happened either. And then each scene comes back and it starts to reveal the story, and you start to see like how people are taking advantage of them,
Yeah, you kind of think this is the good guy. No, he's the bad guy. So what's going on here?
Yeah, and you don't even know what's up, what's down anymore.
Yeah.
I always wondered if like that's like a idea I've had in my head for music somehow. I mean, I don't really know how to translate that yet, but something where like it almost like goes backwards like that. You know, maybe you can think of something and help me out with that. But just maybe like some sort of interesting idea where like the maybe if it was like a concept album of some kind where you starting towards the end and it kind of takes you back through the story could
Oh,
be kind of
cool.
cool.
So you have like small bits, and they go, each one tells a bit of a story, and then you go back to the beginning. Cool.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, not really sure how to do that yet. But it's always been this thing I've sort of had in the back of my head, some idea. And I've never really mentioned it too much because I didn't want anyone to steal it. So why not just mention it on a
Yeah, yeah,
podcast
no, no,
for
yeah.
people to it's up for grabs, everybody. So have fun. Someone ought to do something with it.
Cool. Oh,
So I gotta say, I love your work with Sonic Logic,
thank you very
the
much.
apps that you make. Um, can you tell me about it a little bit? Like, pretend I don't know about it, and take me through it. How you pitch it, and what's the inspiration, all that kind of stuff.
I think it's the first time I'm pitching it in English. Well,
Okay.
Sonic Logic
Oh,
is basically a controller app, for iPads. And I think the main characteristic of it is it's modular. You get to do everything on your iPad. And the idea of developing it came from when I was taking an Ableton Live course back in 2012.
hmm.
And the final project for that course was I had to do a 4-track live show. And it had to be like me performing 20 minutes.
Hmm.
And for that live show at that time, I didn't find any instrument that could control Ableton Live the way I wanted at that time for iPads. So I just wrote one for myself. And then people told me, "Hey, that's nice. You can like release it, and other people would use it." Um, and I think the main thing that I wanted to achieve there was for it to be easy to manipulate, easy to create, easy to control. So we want to think of an instrument, that's foreign to you. Sometimes we get so technical with, VSTs and DAWs and that process, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was the basic goal for it. And as time passed on, it became more and more complex. And yeah, right now, last month I released version 2.1, and it's been a great ride so far.
I think that's always the best inspiration for a project or to build something is when you want it yourself.
Yeah,
You're making it for yourself.
yeah. If you write the
It's
music you
kind of
want to hear,
yeah. And so you had a goal, you had a project, and the thing you needed and wanted didn't exist, so you made it.
yeah, yeah, totally, totally.
I try to use that a lot as my, guiding post. I mean, if it's something something I want to do, if it's a sound collection or whatever, it's fun. It's like, I might be doing it for sharing purposes or trying to sell it or whatever, but at the end of the day, like if nothing works in that department, I got this new collection of sounds that I want,
But
and
you
it's like
you have
a
so
tool you
many
have.
samples out there, right? So many sound samples that you've made so far. How many did you make so far?
I'm about to do release the 150th like a free download.
Wow.
I already did the live stream video, so it's possible that people have watched it already and are saying like, "Where is this thing? I can't download it yet." I haven't had a chance to edit the video. Well, not even edit the video. That's why I did a live stream because I didn't want to edit video. I'm kind of like done with editing videos right now. Um, so I did the live stream and I just did the creation from start to finish. I had these waterfall samples from my honeymoon.
Cool.
My wife, well, we went to all these places in Europe. We went to the fjords in Norway, and Lake Plitvice in Croatia. And there's all these natural waterfalls. It's just, I mean, it's beautiful. It's incredible. And I was taking video of it, like, because I wanted to have video and see it to remember. But I'm also like, these waterfalls sound like white noise. I'm
Wow.
thinking that in my head. I'm like, I should make like an instrument with that. So I basically spent like an hour on a video stream making, I think it was like 6 or so instruments. It'll be out in a couple days.
Cool.
Um, and it's just like all kinds of things, all made from samples of white noise. But like, if no one downloads that, right? I got it now. Like I want that. So it's cool, and I think it's nice that you took that idea for yourself, you made it practical. Like I've been using it, and it is easy to use. It's not like sometimes I find myself like getting things done in spite of the software and in spite of the tools. Like
Yeah.
it's a battle. But this is more something like you can work with
Yeah,
that
when Ableton
helps you.
Live came up with Push, I think that was their, original thought to make something that would feel like an instrument, not like a technical thing. And that was my thought as well, in a different direction a bit, right? I
Hmm.
wanted to make something that would be easy for people who use not only Ableton Live, other software as well, to map them and to use them and to control them live. And yeah, that was the main idea behind that.
Right.
Cool.
And it's one of the, I think the best feature for me really is that you get to design the interface yourself
Yeah.
right in the app there. And you just do it right there, and you make what you want. And you want a button, you just say button. You want a fader, you just make a fader. And like something like Push, for instance, or any MIDI controller hardware you'd buy, it's fixed to some degree. Like I can't. I love the layout of the Push, but I can't like say put the encoders on the bottom if I want them there.
Yeah.
There at the top, that's it.
Yeah.
But Sonic Logic is a little different that way.
One of the things that were the inspirations for making it was I watched a video at that time by J Views. You know J Views?
What's the name?
J Views is an Israeli musician. Actually lives in Brooklyn. And
Okay,
he
no,
made
not
this
familiar.
awesome video called Making a Salad. I'll share the link with you.
Okay.
And he does this amazing controllerism bit with his, I think, Novation keyboard. And the two things I noticed when I saw that video was one, um, this is awesome. And the second thing is he had all these stickers on his controller. And the gold stickers do something like that. The orange stickers, like you'd have when a physical controller, you'd have like stickers if there were constant mapping. And I was thinking, okay, we're in 2012. Why does he have stickers on? Why doesn't he have a better interface that could be adaptive, that could change according to the song that he's working with?
Yeah.
And yeah, that was one of the inspirations. And it's the same when you're working with physical devices. You have the obvious advantage that you're doing something. You're turning an actual knob. You're not pressing a screen. It's different. It's a different feel to it. But
Yeah.
when you're working with the iPad or whatever device, you have the advantage. It can change or adapt according to where you are on a set or on a track or something like that.
Right. I've certainly been cutting out little pieces of paper, little strips, and writing like low pass filter and sticking it like under that knob, and high pass filter, and then like, all these different, whatever it's doing, and labeling it. Because when especially if I'm starting to like change around some controls on my little setup here, and it's very easy to forget what's what. And I'm all about, I've notebooks full of drawings of my MIDI controls, and I've like, arrows pointing, this is going to do that, and this is going to do this. And then you try it out, and then inevitably you have to change something because, it feels weird in that spot. But it's nice, like what you have where you can just move it. And that's, I guess, I have like very mixed feelings with the iPad touchscreen interfaces. It's like there's obviously like, you can't really feel it.
Yeah.
When I pull a fader on a physical control, I feel it. I know I did that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I know I did that. I
Yeah.
felt it. I moved it. I watched it. And that's definitely something that gets missing from a touch screen. But where you capitalize on that is the how easy it is to change things around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where the love of the love-hate relationship comes in,
Yeah.
where now I can just move things around rather than like, now I need a different MIDI controller or something like that.
Totally. Totally. Actually, when your MIDI controller is fixed, then you live by these limitations, and I think it's something that you discussed so many times on your podcast. And I think it's the same with everyone. When you have a limitation, you have 8 knobs. They're physical and they're mapped to the same addresses. You can be much more creative with that sometimes if you have then you have infinite options, right, on your iPad.
Yeah. Well, when I perform live, I always have it set up where I have 8 tracks of clips that I can launch. And then I have like live instruments I can play and effects and whatever, but I always have 8 tracks. And the only reason I have 8 tracks is because my APC 40 had 8 tracks. And I knew that if I'm going to be, you know, in Ableton Live, you get that little square, like rectangle that goes around the focus area.
Yeah.
I forget what they call that right now, but the focus box that shows you where your APC 40 is, where your push is, or whatever. And I know if I'm playing live and I have to go left and right and up and down, like up and down is one thing, but left and right now, I know I'm going to mess that up. There's going to be a problem somewhere. So I made the decision right away early on that it's just going to be 8 tracks, and that got me going. There was no more like thinking about it, and because especially when you're setting up like a live performance rig, you can do anything you want.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can do anything. But when you do there are a couple limitations I found myself with. I had the 8 tracks of the APC 40, and I bought a table that I was going to use, and it only had so much room. So it's only what I can fit on the table. And I also just decided too, that I wanted to be able to carry everything in one trip, because I knew I'd be going to gigs by myself, and I wasn't going to have to, lug things and make multiple trips and then say, I drop all my gear off at the venue, and then I have to turn around and go get everything else and hope no one takes my computer,
Yeah.
while I'm gone. And, if you're where I live in New York City, well, I'm Long Island, but when I play in, say, Brooklyn, New York City, I mean, your car might very well be like a half a mile away because parking is tremendously difficult.
Well,
That's a long time to leave your gear
yeah.
with nobody. And there's always those nightmare stories of people's stuff getting taken. And for me, I mean, and most of us, I guess, like your laptop's not just your music gear too. It's there's a lot more going on there too.
Yeah.
Personal information. So that was another limitation. I need to be able to carry everything, and it all has to fit on this table. And that made me say, well, okay, I'm not going to bring this extra synth. I'm not going to bring that. It just makes you cut things off.
Yeah, and that's a creative decision. That's actually changes how your music sounds, how you develop it live. So it's funny how these limitations sometimes affect, the actual music that's going to be played live.
Absolutely. Because, I mean, growing up with like the much more primitive gear I had before laptops were being used, at least in my world, I've always dreamed of the unlimited track count and, every single sound in the universe.
Yeah.
When you just have an electric guitar, you're like, oh man, I wish I had like every spacey synth sound I can dream of. Now, once you get it, you're kind of like, okay, so what do I do?
Yeah, totally. The playground is infinite right now. You can do anything you want. So, and again, that relates to something that you talked with Ben on the previous podcast, right? Suppose the trackers. I started actually writing music in the tracker age, and you have like.
Did you really?
Yeah, you have like 8 tracks that you have to manage with them, right? And some real, you see all the Nintendo music and stuff like that. All these limitations, people get so creative, and so if I put this sound on this track and the other one, then they switch them around like really fast. You can do amazing stuff with these, with these limitations. So this is, it's a great lesson for music, in my opinion. You go get all your gear out, put all those VSTs alone, take like the worst kind of instruments that you can think of in Ableton Live or in whatever, and do something really simple with this. See,
Yeah.
see what you can do with this.
Yeah, totally. And I think the what would be the word I want to say? I guess maybe it's just the value of all of our gear, I think, has kind of gone down because there's so much. Back in the old days, if I got some piece of gear, I learned that thing. Like I spent time with it. Even if I wasn't like so thrilled with it and I was a little disappointed on some of the features, it was like, well, this is what I got and I got to figure it out. I can't put it on eBay because there's no eBay yet. And I can't get rid of it. The store's not going to take it back. So I got to make the most of this.
Yeah.
And you really get to know the thing. I was thinking about this in terms of video games too, because I still have all my old Nintendo games and all that, and we brought that to the new house we moved in, and we're like setting it up, and I'm looking at some of these games. And I'm like, this game is so crappy. It's just the worst game ever. But I played it so much. And it's like, because you just wanted to like it. You just were trying so hard to get into it because you just spent all your money on it. And like, now you got to like it. But on the other hand, my brother-in-law brought over an emulator.
Yeah.
So it's like a I think it's a Raspberry Pi computer that, one of those little tiny deals. And it's got like every Nintendo game, every Genesis game, Super Nintendo, all loaded on it. And you can play them all. And you wind up just like popping a game on and playing it for like 30 seconds and then just whatever. And this game sucks. Let's try something else.
Yeah.
And you don't dive into things as much. And I think that these days it's really important to like decide to dive into something and say, I'm going to learn this thing and get good at this thing rather than just collect things.
Yeah.
And trying things out. And I don't like this. I'll sell it on eBay and get something else. And I mean, I spent ages. Like, I think there was like a solid like 3-month period where I was just like downloading everything I could, dark alleys of the internet,
Yeah.
going to all those bad places that you're not supposed to go to, and cracking software. And it was I got really good at cracking software, but I had no music to show for it, and I had all these like plugins and things that I didn't know how to use.
Yeah. You know where to go,
And
right? You have like an infinite list of plugins, and you
yeah,
really,
and like you don't even play with them. Like some of them were like really fancy, awesome plugins, and I would like tool around with a preset and then be like, all right, what else I got? Whereas I made the decision to just trash all that stuff and focus on what was inside Alive, because really the main reason was that I found that the third party stuff, the VSTs and all, if
Yeah.
I ever had like a problem where it would crash, it was always because of something like that. But the things that were inside Alive were, and this is going back a little bit too, so it might have gotten better, but the things that were in Live were really stable and they just worked. And I knew if I was going to be playing shows relying on this computer program not crashing, like I can't have like a whole bunch of suspicious stuff running. So once I got rid of that stuff, then I learned Live. I learned how to use it and got deep with it. And it was such a good decision because, like I said, it was probably a good 3 months where I was spending a lot of my time, doing music,
Yeah.
but really I was just downloading stuff.
Yeah.
I had no music to show for it. And it was just this one day where I realized, like, man, I haven't like made anything and I haven't been doing anything but, making music. And I had nothing to show for it. It was just kind of like a shameful feeling. Also, it's cheating and stealing, not to mention that. But
Yeah.
um, it was an eye-opening experience. Finally, I had everything I ever dreamed of, and now I have no music to show for it.
Well, yeah, if you master, say, the operator in Ableton Live, which I never did. It's like for me,
And which could take you your whole life to master. I mean,
yeah,
that's a deep synth.
yeah.
You just, I think they said something like FM synthesis, like the DX7, like they haven't even cracked like 10% of the sounds that thing's capable of.
I have no
I
idea
heard
how people made.
someone said that. What was that?
I seriously have no idea how people made sounds in these eras. Like if someone used an actual DX7, I don't know how. I have actually no idea how he would make sound
Have
like
you
that.
ever tried to program a DX7?
No, 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 no. I don't even want to go
Don't.
there. No.
Don't. it's it's the most arduous thing ever. It's not fun at all. I mean, anyone that programs that thing, I take my hat off to you, and you're way more patient, intelligent, and forgiving than I could ever be. Um, it's just so difficult. Though they do have a really nice editor out, DX'd, I believe it's called. I think it's Coffee Shop makes it. I'll have to double check that, and maybe I'll put the link. But it's great. It's like a visual editor on the computer, and you can send patches to it. But
I don't even try to program easier synths. I have like the Roland TB3. It's like the TB303
yeah, the
new
little acid
version.
guy. Yeah,
First, I love it. I grew up in that age, so I love the sound. But I find myself not programming the patterns, manually, just sending MIDI to it because it's much more difficult. You have to like go
yeah,
inside the synth, and it's not as intuitive as like drawing or playing your notes on the DAW.
yeah. Well, I guess if you were in what early '80s with that thing, and that's the thing you had, like you'd learn it, you'd figure it out.
Yeah,
I've seen people be pretty proficient on it, like once you know what you're doing. But I don't. I mean, I've had the software emulations of the 303, and I never really got what was going on there. I never had the patience for it. Like you, I'd rather just write a MIDI clip,
yeah.
you know, than doing all that. Those things look pretty cool, though. I gotta say that the most recent, what are those? What do they call them? I'm forgetting now. The
There are,
boutique, yeah.
yeah, there's the boutique and there's the Aria line, I think,
Hmm.
from Roland. So I have the green one, the Aria one,
Yeah,
which is amazing. I've always wanted that little box of acid sounds. And yeah, the boutique ones, once I bought it, the boutique ones was like came out a year or 2 years afterwards. I'm like, oh man, I want that too. But yeah, even though it's the exact same synth, just with a different skin on it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
Like it's we do live in a cool time for synthesizer people. There's so much fun stuff coming out all the time now, and it wasn't like that even like 5 years ago. It was a pretty cool time,
Yeah, totally, totally.
which makes it a lot easier to fall into the very problem we're talking about, just gathering stuff and you
And
know,
focusing and finding your zen place inside all of this madness.
yeah.
Cool.
So with the I guess I wanted to ask you a little bit about like maybe the technical, like actually building the app
Sure,
process.
sure. How geeky do you want this to go?
I don't know. Go for it, and maybe I'll tell you to put on the brakes if anything gets a little out of control. Yeah, it's. I just wonder, like to me, it's like it might as well be a mystery, rocket science, or whatever you want to say.
So basically, I'll start with Sonic. How it's how it's built nowadays. It has a little engine that's running inside of it called Sonic Logic Core. and I'm using it for all the basic fundamental things that Sonic Logic and its sister app Knoblab do.
Hmm.
So this actually the Sonic Logic core allows me to put all the main things that I need: send MIDI, connect to USB, connect to Bluetooth, connect to whatever you need to connect, and then everything else is the outer layer. For Sonic Logic, it's all the UI shenanigans that you have. You can move the button, you can change it, you can do the sliders. For Knoblab, it's you rotate the knobs. So it's basically one core, and everything around it is different, and that allows me to actually duplicate that core and make other apps that run with the same, and they get the same functionality with no time, with no work at all. So a couple of things that I did that I think they were nice and cool. I did a demo of Flappy Bird. Remember Flappy Bird?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so I did a demo. I hooked it up to Flappy Bird, a Flappy Bird clone. So basically, when you would, the bird needs to go through these bars, right? And when you tap the screen, the bird goes up, and when you leave it, the bird goes down. So I hooked it up to a MIDI note, right? So every time you let the bird go up, you get the controller going up, and the bird, when the bird goes down, goes down. Whenever it gets through a bar, it sends a random note. So that would be
Hmm.
actually really cool. You can like play Flappy Bird and it would control Ableton Live doing like a MIDI filter or something like that, or kind of wacky effect. And that's one example that you can take that core that does one thing and hook it up to something that does something completely different, and it's really, really,
Right.
really cool, in my opinion,
I love that idea.
right?
Um, my buddies are very into like arcade machines. Now, one of my friends, he's got, man, I don't even know how many more. His whole garage is just old arcade machines, and one guy does the emulators, and he's built an arcade machine, and it's all it's the joystick, the buttons, and it's all sending out like keyboard messages, like
Yeah,
letters, just so then that gets translated in the emulator, whether it's like MAME, I think, um, and that gets translated into whatever buttons are in the game.
yeah,
So I've always thought like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we had you playing the game and then we're also taking those buttons and like key mapping things inside of Ableton Live, like maybe like when you put the joystick up, it launches the clip, and then when you pull it down, it launches the next clip, and left and right, and the buttons maybe are effects or something. I thought it'd just be like really awesome to have like maybe like two people playing like Street Fighter 2 against each other, and you program it in such a way where the clips will all kind of work together, but they're making music and playing the game at the same time, and
yeah.
depending on like how you play, you get different songs.
I think there's a software that does that, because I thought
Oh
about
yeah.
that idea of making, because a joystick is such a cheap controller that almost,
Uh-huh.
a lot of people have in their homes. So I've toyed with that idea for a while, and what I saw. Can you see me, by the way? I see that my image is frozen, right?
Yeah, we froze. Maybe we'll turn off the video.
Okay, let's start off the video. Cool.
Hopefully.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I saw that someone already did that, right? So you can tell your friends they can download a really, really simple software
Okay.
and get just that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And another interesting project I can tell you that I was working on was moving, breaking that barrier between working with complete touch-based interface and something that's physical. So I've toyed a little bit with the thought of, okay, how can I change that? And what I did a little physical controller that gets on the iPad and actually maps, the things you do on the physical controller that's running on the iPad to the software and to Ableton Live. And that was pretty cool in my opinion, because you actually feel you're like actually rotating something, and you get that modular thing that you get with the touch interface, but with something physical that you're actually touching.
So you literally put like this kind of knob or something on your iPad screen,
It
and it
wasn't,
corresponds. Is that what how I'm understanding it?
yeah, it wasn't really a knob because
Okay.
the way that the touch interface works for, at least on iOS devices, that's what I know of.
Yeah.
It works with electrical connectivity. So if I put a knob on your iPad, it wouldn't detect it. So you need something that you touch and it closes a circuit with your body and send it to the iPad. So what
Oh
I
wow.
ended up doing was taking some actually tinfoil and making a triangle out of it, and think I connected it with. I didn't have anything in my house, so my daughter's finger paint to a little bit of Q-tip on the end, and it was like a triangle controller. And when you moved it around the iPad, you get like the XY, and when you rotate the triangle, you get another dimension of the control of the music. That was, in my opinion, really really cool because that breaks the barrier between something that's not physical and something that is physical.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah,
And all with tinfoil.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
You need to put something on, something underneath. Otherwise, you'd ruin your iPad, right? With that tinfoil.
Right, right. Yeah, I wonder what where this is going to lead because there's obvious advantages like with the screen where it's in Sonic Logic, Knob Lab, they both take advantage of that you can just change
Yeah.
things and customize things. And I just wonder like like they have I don't know if you've experimented with this much, but the don't the I think was it the iPhone 7 maybe? It has like the pressure sensitivity.
Oh yeah.
See, I think I have a 6. Yeah, I don't have pressure on mine. Um, so I've never played around with that, but I've seen there are some apps that are kind of using it for like aftertouch, um, on like synth-based apps where you can kind of press and get some modulation through the pressure.
Yeah, it's a really cool concept. I wish they maybe they will bring it to the iPad soon, and then things would really get interesting. But
Yeah,
yeah, even on the iPhone, it's a great concept. Um, and I've been thinking of adding it to my iPhone app, the Knob app, to add a little bit of see how the touch sensitivity works. Um, yeah, these things that add another dimension to your interaction,
yeah,
but it's still not the same as you would if you take a physical knob, especially when you're performing and you're excited, and
yes.
it's easier for your hand to slip on an iPad than it is to when you're rotating an actual knob, right?
Oh, definitely. And that's definitely a I've experienced that myself with performing having an iPad and like especially if you make things real small or you have an app where like the controls are really tiny and the heat of the moment of a show it's very hard to make sure you get your finger in the right spot and um I find that to be pretty challenging because you know when you grab the knob,
Yeah,
when you grab the fader, when you press the button, but sometimes you don't know if you touched the right spot of the screen because it feels the same as the wrong spot of the screen.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
And
exactly
in
that.
live situations, you're dancing, there's people screaming and yelling, and maybe it's dark or whatever. Yeah, that can become even more challenging.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, so that these are the downsides of it, right? But the it's a compromise. It's always a compromise.
Yeah,
What do you want to achieve? Because I get to do when I do the live shows, I get to have totally different configuration for each track. So it's like a
right.
different controller for each track, and everything is customized to everything that's going on. So this is just something that's impossible to achieve unless you have like tons of physical controllers, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then that doesn't fit in my bags that I can carry
Yeah.
in one trip. And you have to sort of leave that out. I was playing around with a Korg Chaos pad for a little while. Um, I feel bad for my Chaos Pad. That's the piece of gear that I really liked, but never really got too far with it.
It always looks
Um,
cool. I've been always intrigued by that piece of equipment. It looks so cool, but I have
yeah,
no idea what it does.
it's basically effects. So I mean, there are like some synth sounds, but I never really found them super useful for what I was doing. I think the synth sounds are a little more like a secondary thing. It's really more like for processing audio, as far as I could tell.
Yeah,
So I would like sometimes like run certain sounds through it or a microphone, and then you can kind of touch the screen. I guess it's a screen or the XY pad, really, whatever they want to call it. But you touch that, and you can manipulate like different parameters of whatever effect it is that it has loaded up, and you're stuck with whatever their effects are. I never got deep enough to figure out if I can change them too much.
yeah,
But it was really just I would set up the external audio effect inside of Live and then just run whatever audio it was through it. A lot of times it was my vocals, so I could do kind of like quick effects with just touching the screen. Fun, but I found, and I don't really use the XY anymore, but I preferred setting up something like Sonic Logic when just a big XY, you know,
yeah. Because
and
can you can do a lot of things with it, right? Um,
yeah,
and I,
and it's just it feels the same really as I mean, I guess like if you're touching the XY pad on the Korg, you're affecting it. But if you make the XY pad on the iPad big enough, you know, you're gonna touch it.
yeah, yeah. And another thing that you can do more easily, I think, on software is you can map parameters to multiple controls, right? I can have
Yeah,
one knob, currently knob lab, not in Solid Logic, that can control up to 8 different effects. So I can have a really, really complex transition done with just one knob. And although we can achieve that in Ableton Live, with Max for Live, I'm guessing there are a lot of patches, right, that can do that.
yeah,
Um, I think that's a really, really nice advantage that you can do on software. I know that other MIDI controllers do that as well. Um, so you can have like a really, really complex transition or a really complex thing that you're doing in a show, and it's really, really easy because you just turn one knob and doing that,
hmm
and lights are turning, and the filter is going, and everything is like changing. And that's like really cool. I think really cool thing you can achieve in these controllers. I didn't see many physical controllers that actually can map this kind of behavior.
yeah. I guess unless you're doing it inside the software itself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know Ableton
I'm.
Live is such an open program. Everyone's doing everything. I'm thinking everything that you might have thought of doing, someone has already done, right? In Max for Live.
It's actually the big reason I haven't tried to learn how to program in Max for Live yet. Um, because there's such a huge community of people doing stuff.
Yeah.
And if you go on maxforlive.com, odds are there's something pretty close to what you're looking for. And the other thing I found is that there are people out there willing to make things. Um, and sometimes you just kind of throw the word out that you're looking for something. Someone says, "Hey, that's a good idea," and they make it. I had this issue with. I always wanted to map the record quantize to a button so that I could actually like play a drum beat and like say I know I'm just doing like a four to the floor kick, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna just hit quarter notes, and I wanted to be able to just like kind of play that beat real quick and then have it quantize to quarter notes, but then right after that do like maybe like an eighth note hi-hat pattern. And in order to change the record quantize in live, you need to go into the menu and with the mouse and everything.
Yeah.
So I had been in touch with Loudon Stearns, and I knew he was doing some programming and asked him about it. And, soon enough, he had developed something that was awesome and even threw in a couple extra little features that he wanted to. And there it was. You know, it was the record quantize like Max for Live patch, so you can MIDI map the buttons on the Max for Live device, and it would change the thing inside of the um, record quantize menu inside of Live,
You know, this is
which
also amazing. You know, we were talking about how software had how today you can have like everything you ever wanted, right?
yeah,
So you can actually, if it doesn't exist, you can actually ask someone, you know, ask the internet, do you can you make me that? And
yeah,
and this is just mind blowing, you know, because you know, okay, you have endless possibilities. You just have endless possibilities in these programs. You still your consumerism mind think, okay, I want more somewhere, you know, somewhere deep inside. I'm thinking, okay, Ableton 10, they're gonna give me, I don't know what, but I want it, you know.
yeah. I think it's got to be difficult, and maybe you can speak to this as a developer, that you're probably getting like all kinds of different feature requests, some obscure and some very practical. It must be difficult figuring out what to actually include and what to decide, like, that would complicate my software too much. So, like, there's probably 10,000 billion things out there that people are requesting, say, in Ableton Live for that to do.
Yeah,
But with each new feature you add a level of complexity.
yeah.
I think that's kind of the genius of the Max for Live approach, is that you can sort of do your own thing and have this little add-on that you could have if you want or not have if you don't want.
Yeah,
Do,
totally.
do you find that, like, has there been anything that you've maybe wanted to include or people have wanted you to include where you've kind of had to decide that, well, that would just kind of take, because you mentioned you wanted it to be simple.
Yeah.
So how do you balance adding new features while maintaining the usability
Oh,
and not
wow.
making it overly complex?
Well, that's a great question. I'm guessing that deciding if some feature goes in or not into Sonic Logic has three questions that I have to ask myself. First, how passionate about I am about that feature, because it's just like with making music. If you're not passionate about it, then you won't have the motivation to write it, right? So
Yeah.
if someone asks me to do something and I don't connect to it, or I don't see um, flowing organically inside of Sonic Logic, then I'd probably have, you know, I'd see if I can do it, right? But if it's not something simple to do, then I have less motivation to do it. And the two other questions that I ask myself is how technically complex that is, and the other one, would it make users using Sonic Logic uh, feel that they're using a bloatware? You know, you have, okay, so many buttons, so many options, but you don't know what to do.
Bloatware.
And
I like
when
that.
when I went to design Sonic Logic 2.0, I rethought how the edit screens would act, because that, in my idea, is the most complex screen you can have. Like when you go to a button, you can change the color, you can change the title, you can make it a note, you can make a MIDI transition, you can make a time transition that you press and you wait for a while for it to pass. You get so many options. How
Yeah.
do I make it all fit in one screen, and how do I make it simple?
Right.
So
And now, and then maybe you get someone saying, "Can I want to change the font of the labeling on it?" Like you have to, I guess, cut some of those and say sorry. Like this is just the font.
yeah, usually when I get requests, you know, one of the first requests that I got was to support virtual MIDI, and I was, okay, what's
Uh-huh.
virtual MIDI? And
Okay, so
well, virtual MIDI is when the iPad sends MIDI back to other iOS software, and it
yeah,
turns out there's a huge community of iPad musicians who write their music completely only on an iPad, no other DAW, and it's actually a great community out there. And it was like a real eye opener. You know, you get this feature request, and you get to see a whole new world of musicians and how they use the program from it,
hmm.
and that's great.
Right. Yeah. And maybe not something you were necessarily involved in, but then you say, "Oh wow!" Like uncovering a stone and finding all those bugs under it. There's all
Yeah.
these like people working in that particular environment doing their thing, and having that feature suddenly opens you up to that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that really opened when I developed the Sonic Logic, I knew music or controllerism from the angle that I was developing the software. I was making a live show in Ableton Live, but people have been using it to do all kind of crazy stuff. I saw it like in a live show in a church, or a video they're using for VJs and video shows, and I have no idea how that works, but they're using my software for it, right?
Right. That's cool. How cool is that? It's like I don't know how you're doing that, but it's pretty funny that you're using my thing for it.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the same with your samples, right? If you get a sample pack and you think, okay, this sample pack would probably be used like in this kind of song, and someone goes along and does something completely different, right?
Yeah, I'm always surprised. I love it. People send me a track, and a lot of the times, like I get asked every once in a while, like, do you recognize your sounds? And almost every time I don't,
Yeah,
um, just because of what people do with it, and I guess the context it's put in. There's certain things, that I guess are meant to be tweaked, and then there's certain things that kind of are what they are on their own. I did this one like household percussion samples where it's just flipping light switches, banging on garbage cans, and whatever I had around the house that I could think of that would make noise, and then made like a little percussion drum rack. And sometimes I'll hear that and I'll be like, "Oh, those are my car keys," that sounds like my garbage can or whatever. But it's pretty. Even when people tell me what they're using, sometimes I don't even know that it's that thing. And that's one of the coolest parts about it. It's this like fun idea that like I had my hand in that somehow.
yeah.
That was like got a little bit of a fingerprint on there somehow or another.
Do you get a lot of
So
requests for sample packs? Folks come to you and say, maybe you can sample this and that and that.
sometimes, yeah, and sometimes it's like, hey, can you sample that $11,000 vintage synth that no one has? And it's like, man, I wish, trust me, if I could, I would have done that already. Um, but yeah, like once in a while you hear something. I find, I guess, like a lot of the requests are like something specific to maybe like a genre.
Yeah,
Like it used to be like dubstep basses, and I don't really hear about that too much anymore.
yeah.
Um, I one of the I guess it's been a little while now, but there was like a deep house synth that someone was asking me to do, so I made a deep house synth, what I thought was a deep house synth.
And do you listen to that deep
And
house? Do you know we get to get to that
I had
genre?
to educate myself.
Oh,
I
that's
did.
really awesome. That's really awesome.
Well, that's like one of the fun things is it made me like get into it, and it was a new thing for me, and it's sort of like I guess it's almost like stereotyping, like you kind of like, this is the kind of thing they always do,
Yeah,
so you kind of like listen just for the trends, which is nice. And I I think, and this is how I listen to music a lot these days, is that I'm almost like a spy or like a like a thief, sneaking by in the night, where I'm kind of like listening more for what I want to do in my own music.
cool.
So, and it's funny because like just in the last few days, I've been playing some just acoustic guitar music with some friends, and it's been really fun to now. I'm listening to music like, what would be some cool songs to just sing, just like nice songs, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
I'm not where like the sound isn't central to it. It's just a song
just,
that lives no matter how you play it.
yeah. Just go back to the basics, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's like it's I just find myself like in this constant like circle where I'm sometimes listening like the sounds inspire me, and I like to make a track that's kind of, I guess it's almost like a gimmick, where it relies on this particular sound and type of arrangement, But then there's just other pieces of music that it doesn't matter what you do, it's just a great piece of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like, I guess, where I'm at right now, at least like this week, is I'm just like, I just want to hear like, songs like that just translate well on an acoustic guitar.
I heard one of the, well, it was actually an Israeli musician, and he, in an interview, he said that one of the important things that wanted to do on his album was that all the songs needed to pass the, I don't know how to say it in English, right? But when you're in a fireplace and you're playing guitar, next to it.
Yeah,
So
nice.
basically, he said all the songs in the album would need to be playable on a basic guitar near a fireplace. So, and I think that's really, really nice approach, to the music, because then it forces you to leave all these incredibly sophisticated, sometimes overly sophisticated transitions or sounds. Just focus on the basics, right? The songs needs to have really good basics, because all the sugar coating of the effects and that won't make the song good.
Yeah.
Needs to have an
A lot of
essence.
times that stuff gets dated, you know, like it sounds like a song from 2017 all of a sudden.
Yeah.
5 years from now, or you know how it is. You listen to like a song from the '80s. Sometimes you're like, oh my god, this is like just like you can only hear the '80s. You don't even hear the song.
Yeah, the reverb on the snare, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
just cuts
still
out like that.
reverbing from the 80s, right?
Yeah, it's still going, right? Godzilla in the Grand Canyon playing the drums. Yeah, so that's a great like idea to think about. I think if it can work just on its own without the you know bells and whistles and fluff and production,
Yeah.
you know I think even I remember being younger, and I think the singer from Green Day, the band Green Day,
Yeah, sure.
I think he said something like that. He's like, if the song's not good on acoustic guitar, it's not good. I think that's like kind of at least in whatever interview I heard him on, he was saying this the similar idea. If it doesn't pass that, it doesn't deserve it. You know,
I was listening today. I was driving my car and I felt like hearing "Smells Like Teen Spirit," right?
nice.
And today you can like hear anything. You just say, "Siri, play me whatever you want," and you can hear it. Just
Oh, you know what? That moment when I have Apple Music,
yeah,
and when I realized that I could just say, Siri, play any song that I could think of, even if I don't have it on my phone,
yeah.
I almost like fell down. This was just like over the summer. I just said, Siri, put on this song, and she put it on. And I was like, I suddenly felt like I took a time machine like 100 years into the future.
Totally.
It was just this amazing thing. Like we can hear whatever we want whenever we want,
Yeah.
more or less.
And like 20
Unbelievable.
years ago, when you wanted to hear something, you had to like, okay, I have to take my tape cassette recorder, right, and do a
Yeah, the
mixtape,
radio. Yes.
and it's
Well,
totally
think
insane.
about that. Think about like what we were saying earlier. Like you buy an album, you just spent, $15 here in America on an album. Like you're gonna try to like that album.
Yeah.
You're gonna really like work with it. You're gonna maybe it'll grow on me kind of thing. And you were invested in it, and now you can just like kind of listen to a track for 5 seconds, be like, what else?
It's the same dilemma with the VSTs, right? You have like an
Yeah,
infinite number of VSTs. Now you have legally an infinite number of songs you can, and you don't know what to listen to, and you always come back to to the basics, the things that you already know, because it's just overwhelming.
so true. Well, I'll tell you what, as a high school teacher, I watch kids, and I try to pay attention to their music listening habits and what they're into. And people will talk about like the album is dead, and I'm like, yo, the song is dead. Like kids aren't even listening to songs anymore. They're just like the average kid, they're just like kind of putting it on for a second, and then their friends like, oh, let me put on this song, and then let me put on this. Like no one's just like sitting there and listening to a song anymore.
Oh, this drives me crazy. I'm gonna be like sound super old right now, but I used to have this annoying neighbor. Sorry, and this neighbor would play music, very very loud music, and I didn't mind that because I was a teenager and I played very very loud music at that time. But he would change the song every 15 seconds, and I'm like, oh, you're driving me crazy. At least pick a song and stick with it, right?
Oh yeah, I had an experience similar to that where I was at a party and the younger sister was playing music, and you know they were probably, I don't know, 18.
Yeah.
And I'm 36, so that I guess that's like,
Oh, we're the
but this
same
is a few
age.
years. Oh yeah, cool.
Cool.
This is a few years back even, and they were DJing, with an iPod,
Yeah.
but they were only listening to like 30 seconds of a song, and like a good song would come on, we'd like kind of start dancing a little, and then it'd be like click, and not even like a nice fade. It was just suddenly there was no music, and then this new song started, and it was just, I was like, no, like we can't even like get into the song and like enjoy it. Yeah, we're old men. Like, listen to us.
Oh, totally.
I
Totally.
feel it, in my teaching career. I definitely do feel the gap widening a little bit. Um, where sometimes certain things will just happen. I'm just like, whoa, like I'm different now, and kids are changing. I'm changing, and when I first started teaching, I was only a few years older than them. I related to them more than the other teachers.
Yeah.
I was more used to being in high school than I was being a teacher. But that's shifting now. And sometimes I notice it. And I have the ninth grade kids this year and for the last few years, and I think that has a lot to do with it because they're a little bit younger. Here, I don't know if you're familiar, but in here, ninth grade is like you're about 14 years old.
Okay.
So I'll get this year I have ninth and 12th, which are the older kids. They're about 17, 18.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you get the ninth graders and you think like, wow, they were born in like 2002
Yeah.
or 3.
Yeah.
Like they're not even 1900s, and sometimes you just do feel the distance a little bit.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have so many stories about about that age difference, but I'm afraid that you have to change the podcast, to the old people podcast,
Yeah, right. Old folks
Yeah,
home or something.
yeah, yeah.
So I think you were mentioning, and I just want to bring it up since I love Nirvana so much, but you're mentioning you wanted to hear "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
Yeah. I don't think you can play that song acoustically in any variation, right? It would be very difficult, at least. So,
My buddy and I were trying to think of what songs to play. We're doing this little show at the school.
yeah,
Tomorrow night we're gonna play like a couple acoustic songs. It's actually a really awesome event that they do, where they open up the auditorium and it's almost like an open mic night.
cool.
I mean, the kids do have to try out just to kind of make sure they're not gonna get up there and like curse or something. um, but it's almost like an open mic kind of deal, and it's called the Acoustic Cafe. So my buddy and I wanted to play, and we sort of got this idea in our head, like it'd be kind of cool to do songs that we liked when we were that age, you know. So Nirvana came up,
Yeah,
and the thing with Nirvana, and I think they have great songs. Don't get me wrong. I think, and if Nirvana Unplugged was amazing,
yeah, totally amazing.
but it's like you have to be Kurt Cobain. Like it was so much personality, and like his melodies are great, his songs are great, they're catchy, memorable, but like it's very hard to separate his style and character from the songs. Whereas there are other songs where I think they just kind of, anyone could sing them almost.
Yeah,
But it's almost like you have to be Nirvana to do Nirvana.
yeah, yeah. There are very
I don't know if that's true.
few performers or artists that you can say, okay, it can only be that person performing that
Yeah.
particular song, right?
Yeah, and I'm feeling a little confused right now because I really do believe in that thing that like a good song can be played, almost any way, and I feel that all of those Nirvana songs are like that, but we just couldn't get it right, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like it was just like, like it just it's missing Kurt Cobain.
yeah.
It's missing Nirvana. Um, so we had to bail on Nirvana songs. We're not gonna do any of those.
What songs did you try to play?
I think, and we're still up in the air on this.
Yeah.
We're wholly unprepared. um, I think we're gonna do Beatles in my. Sorry, not in my life. And I love her.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think we're gonna do Neil Young's Heart of Gold.
Cool.
I think we have a handful of Neil Young songs we're gonna probably like just play around with and see which one we like think sounds the best.
And do the
But
young
I think
people
that's what
relate
we're
to
gonna do.
that nowadays?
Probably not. The Beatles though, like, hold up. Um I don't know about Neil Young though.
Yeah.
Um I when I was in high school, I wasn't really into Neil Young. I had to get a little bit older,
Yeah.
and kind of mature, I think, because it doesn't really have that gimmick, and if you listen to Neil Young, just a cursory listen, like you might be able to just say like his voice is funny or something like that. But I mean, that's the exact thing I love about him. His songs are great. His voice is just all soul and character and
Yeah.
just incredible. I mean, effortless. I've seen him play a few times live,
Cool.
and I was always blown away by him. He was just unbelievably like he's a guy that's never just like phoning it in. He's never just like performing. Like he's there. He's in the song deeper than anyone else.
Yeah.
And I love that about him. Like I think he's kind of got the attitude from what I've read and heard that if he's not feeling it, it doesn't happen. He's got to be there and in it, and it feels that way when you see him live. Even like I saw him in Madison Square Garden,
Hmm.
huge venue, and sometimes the shows there are like really impersonal. But man, like it didn't matter. You still felt like you were like sitting right next to him. Like he was just so good,
That's so
so
nice.
good.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
nice. You get when you find these kind of performers that are so unique and the music
yeah,
comes so natural to them, right? And something that really strips everything, all the other layers off it, and you can just relate to that. And
yeah,
actually, there's one Israeli performer whose name is Inbal Perlmutter, and she died in 1997. And there was it just reminded me because we talked about Kurt Cobain, right? And there
yeah.
was a bootleg recording of one of her albums, and um, it was like lost for 20 years, and it was just published last year. And you can see, even though it was kind of a crappy recording, it was 20 years old, and something that was totally outdated, you can just hear the essence of a good music and a good performer
Right.
coming to you, and it's priceless, right? You can see, and today, no production, no autotune, no things that you can do to a song technically can replace that. It comes back to the
No,
basics, right?
there is no plug-in for that.
Yeah.
For that raw, just like feeling and emotion.
But if the Max for Live community is listening, feel free to write one.
Right, right. Someone's got the like heart and soul device coming out.
Yeah.
The spiritual connection kit. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's 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 really, I guess, the thing though that really, for me, I guess anyway, that just makes it all real and important, like those feelings and those connections. And it's really can be tricky to tap into.
Yeah.
But there's certain people that just seem to like bring it out every time. Like it's just like in their back pocket.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Mm.
Completely agree.
So,
So
um, maybe we'll start to wrap this up here. We've been
yeah,
chatting a little while. It's been great too. I'm
yeah,
really happy we did get this chance to talk.
me
I've
too.
always admired your work.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise. Uh,
Do you have any place you want people to check you out? You want to like maybe let them know something to look at, or I mean, obviously there's Sonic Logic and all that, but you know,
well, I'm not that good
anything.
in all the social networks things. I'm guessing the best place to catch anything new on Sonic Logic is Instagram.
Yeah.
Um, but also, I'm on Facebook, on Twitter. It's basically www.soniclogicapps.com. Um, yeah, and I'm there. So if anyone's interested, I'm always open to suggestions, right?
Right. Yeah, and it's really come along. It's really grown and a nice thing you got going there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Means a
I'll
lot.
I'll tell you, and in all honesty, uh, people sometimes ask me what I do with my iPad, and my answer is sort of sarcastic, but I'll be like, "Oh, I download apps." Like, that's what I'd use it for. Because it seems like there's always something, and you download it and maybe use it a little. But Sonic Logic has been one I always come back to.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's on there. It's not in the graveyard of unused apps that gets deleted when space runs low. It is a very useful app, and the customization is really really cool that you've done it that way, and it is very simple to use. So I would say you've nailed it on all of those fronts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. When I first saw the video that you made like 4 years ago on Sonic Logic, and I saw it and just recently revisited that video, and I saw I think, wow, this guy really gets how to use the app, and it was like very very nice to see. So thank you.
I think I made that the app of the week.
Yeah.
And that was the only time I ever did app of the week. I thought it was going to be the segment I ran on my blog, app of the week, because there's so many and there's a lot of really great apps out there. So I was like kind of into like trying to filter it down for people to
Yeah.
say like, look, these are the apps that I like that I've downloaded that are cool. That there's so many you can get that are just I don't find much use for it. And rather than like say like don't get this app, I don't like it. I wanted to just like kind of create a list of apps that I thought were cool. So I did start with Sonic Logic. I also ended with it. It's just I don't know for whatever reason that series didn't catch on with me. So it's an exclusive honor that you
Yeah, yeah, totally.
have. All
Awesome,
right, man.
cool.
Well, it's been really awesome talking to you, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Oh,
And
I'd love that.
of course, keep me posted. I follow you everywhere on Instagram and all of that, so I'm kind of up to on what you're doing. But yeah, please keep me posted, and
Awesome.
I'll be sure to spread the word for you.
Yeah, I'll keep listening to your podcast. I'm really, every time I see that podcast app showing that there's a new episode, I'm like, yes. And
Awesome. That makes me happy. It's great to hear.
awesome. Keep up the good work.
Okay, and congratulations on your new daughter.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
wonderful. I guess we're not going to see too many updates anymore.
No. I'm
Well, that's
I'm
what the
still working.
nighttime's for, right?
Yeah, I found myself programming with a sleeping baby on me, so it's okay.
Hey, I tell you what, I do find that when my schedule is busy, I get the most done
Oh, totally.
because the time is so precious. And you decide like I got 2 hours or I got whatever, and I'm gonna use that because I don't know when I'm gonna get it again.
Yeah.
So, hey, you never know. This might all of a sudden this might be like a golden age of productivity for you.
Oh, it's maybe I'll write that memento style code. It's like, what am I writing? What did I write before, right?
Right. Very cool. Yeah, congratulations though. That's
Thank you.
really
Thank
good
you very
news.
much. Thanks.
Okay, so we're going to call it quits. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. Please check out soniclogicapps.com. And I'll put some links in the show notes for stuff we talked about. And have a great day, everybody. Take care.